As a former New Hampshire state representative who marched with Dr. Martin Luther King in 1963, he currently serves on the New Hampshire Commission for Human Rights. He's a product of Birmingham, Alabama, where at one time he had to guess how many jelly beans were in a fruit jar just to be able to vote.
We've come a long way, but we're not there yet.
Together we will explore the visible laws, invisible laws, and the structures above and beneath our human surface that keep us reaching for the stars. It is his goal to work with you in putting Nashua back on top, to be voted the #1 city in the nation again.
We are in a crisis situation, and that's what we're going to talk about.
I'm Harvey Keye. Welcome to Nashua Strong.
Hello, Nashua, New Hampshire. I'm back again. And before we get started, before I forget it, I want to make sure that we thank the people behind the scenes who are making this work for us. They dedicate a huge amount of intelligence and hard work and editing and fixing it so we look pretty. And not only look pretty, but we look like professionals, as we are. So, Bob and crew, thank you so much. And you at home, I want to thank you for allowing this young lady, Melanie Levesque. You may have heard her name before because she was one of the first, one of the this and one of the other, but for sure, one of the first young ladies in the New Hampshire Senate as a senator and a person of color. We don't rave about that because color makes no difference, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. And I hope it doesn't make any difference in your opinion. I hope that what she brings to help us fight for freedom and keep our freedom is what you will accept. Now, I want to thank you, 90,000 people, and encourage you to get out and vote for Melanie because you can. We need her to win. If not now, we may not see her again for a long time, or may not get a chance to do this again for a long time because our democracy is on a slippery slope. The slippery slope means that a huge number of people who feel that we shouldn't have the right to vote at all. We shouldn't have the right to go to the church that we like at all. We shouldn't have the right to work at certain jobs at all. And they have all the best jobs, the best positions, and the best everything in our society. But we won't go down that road today, but we'll touch on it a little bit. So I want to welcome this young lady that I knew her family a large number of years ago when she was a little girl going to school with my kids here in Nashua, New Hampshire. She is a Nashua person, but not only that, she's a state of New Hampshire. She's a New Hampshire cowgirl. Now, I don't know, they call it cowgirls. They call us up here cow country, but we carry a uniqueness that is different than any other state in the country. We have less than 10% of people who are non-Caucasians in this state, and 95% of people who are Caucasians. And it seems that we've gotten along so well for so long. And then I asked the question, what's the secret? Or someone asked me, what's the secret? And I said to them, there's no secret. It's called civilization and humanity. We love each other because of that reason. Now, I won't give you the rest of my philosophy today. You know what it is. But I'm going to switch over to Melanie. Good morning, Melanie, and thank you for coming on our show. And I have a couple of questions I'm going to ask you before I let you go because I want you to... You've been here before.
I have been, yeah.
So you know what I'm going to ask you, you don't know this round of questions. But I want to say to you, I am so enthusiastic about your winning. And, you know, when I was a young fella, I was engaged in a few sports. And one of the sports I was engaged in was track. And I saw myself winning. I won. When I tried to catch up with others, I did not win.
Yeah, yeah.
So I want you to see yourself in the seat as an executive counselor. So I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. Where were you born?
I was born in Roxbury, Mass. And before I go on, I just want to thank the 90,000 residents of Nashua and thank the guys behind the scene. And thank you, Harvey, for having me on.
My pleasure.
Roxbury, Mass.
Roxbury. Where did you go to school? Elementary, high, and college?
Let's see. First started at White Wing for nursery school.
White Wing was at the Unitarian Church.
Unitarian Church, Broad Street School. I was just there yesterday dropping off some donuts to the teachers. Never forget that school. I cried the day my mom brought me to school. And then after that, it was just, I never looked back. I enjoyed all my classmates learning, and it was the beginning of my adventure. So then we went to Sunset Heights, and then Fairgrounds Junior High, and then Nashua High. And for college, I went to Daniel Webster College. I went to the Vocational Technical College, and then Daniel Webster again. Actually, that was for my bachelor's degree, and then a master's degree at Southern New Hampshire University.
What is your employment background? You went to college,
Yes.
and you went to technical school. What is it that the technical school that you picked up at Daniel Webster?
Well, I got my degree in marketing and management, and something that I had really wanted to do was work in a clothing store. So I worked for Cherry Webb and Terrain. I worked for Bradley's, and
What'd you do for them?
for Bradley's I was department manager for both, actually. And then I realized I really wanted to work in a corporate environment, so I worked for Digital Equipment Corporation.
What do department managers do in a department store?
Manage the department.
That's manage the department.
Take in goods, be
Yeah,
responsible for all the employees.
Now, did you work for Digital?
Yes, yes.
That's a different kind of management, isn't it?
Very different. I started on the call center answering technical questions, and I worked my way up to a manager.
How could you answer questions if you didn't know anything about?
Well, we learned. You know, we
They
had
sent you to school?
training. We had training. I was very inquisitive, so I learned a lot about the product set and wanted to know more and more. I wanted to be able to answer questions fully for people, not just pass them on. So I tried to answer.
But you
as
didn't
much as I
start
could.
at Digital as a manager.
No, I started at the call center on the phones, and then I worked my way up to be a manager.
Did you ever work for the phone company?
I did. I worked for AT&T, and my
What
sister
year
and
was
I-
that?
I think it was like 2000 and, well, maybe it was 1998.
It was
something like
after I
that.
left.
Yeah, it
the
was after
business.
you left.
Okay.
Yeah, I worked for the phone company, and we saw there that there were problems with telecommunications, so my sister and I started our own business.
And you started a business. Who inspired you? A little girl born in Roxbury, Mass, shifted up to cow country to start a business. What was in your mind's eye to say you could make money in a business?
Well, my parents were divorced, but I do remember when they were together, my dad would always tell me, you've got to have your own business. You got to fly your own plane.
Was he in his own
He
business?
had his own business.
What was the
as
name
well.
of his business?
Matrix, something like that, and he
It was a
in
computer
business
kind of stuff.
with drafting. He was
Yeah.
a draftsman.
Okay,
and for this company. He worked for Sanders, which is now
Sanders.
BAE.
Yeah.
Back in the day, and he and Len Shapiro
Yeah.
started a business together, and I believe it was called Matrix.
Yeah.
Using their drafting skills. Yeah.
That's great.
Yep.
That's a good story.
Yeah. It's a lot
That
of
give
good
you
stories.
something to work on. Now, you got that inspiration from your mom and dad, and Then you decided and you had this passion to become a state representative. From now you live in Brookline.
Mm-hmm.
How difficult was that?
Well, it wasn't as difficult as I thought it was going to be because, well, first of all, talking about my mom, some of the things that she taught me was the importance of being a volunteer and being part of the community. So that was something that I always took with me. And when I was at an NAACP meeting, I met Jackie Witherspoon. Jackie was a state representative. And when I saw her, I realized...
What year was that?
You keep asking me these years. People going to add up and know how old I am. You know, it was a while ago. It was in the probably, maybe, 2004.
Something, okay.
2004, 2006.
Because see, I was in New Hampshire in the early 70s.
Yeah.
And I was matriculating dangerously with white supremacy. And the guy who was the editor for the Union Leader, who put Martin Luther King name on a target and shot at it, and said he was something from Africa. At any rate, that was before your time. And then I moved on to something else. But
well, I just wanted to answer a question that you asked me, which I find very interesting. How did it go when I was running for state rep? Because I was ready to think that people weren't going to accept me, but people...
You were ready for them not to accept?
Not to accept me, right.
So you had a negative feeling?
I was afraid...
Based on what?
Because I'm a person of color, but I'm also a person who grew up in New Hampshire. I am their neighbor. I should say and, not but. So... people were kind. You're kind to them, they're kind to you. You meet them where they're at.
Do you carry a pocket full of happiness with you now?
I guess you could call it that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's hard to reject a pocket full of happiness.
Yeah. When you're good
and
to
your
others.
color really doesn't matter,
Right.
in my opinion, when you carry a pocket full of happiness. Mm-hmm. I don't think I've ever had that problem because I've always, since I grew up, I've grown up, I was taught to make your enemies your friends and you'll never have any enemies. So says Abraham Lincoln.
Yeah.
So I don't have any enemies. I don't have any white folks out there saying, I don't like you, Harvey, because of any reason, because they are human beings just like I am, and that's the way I see them, and I think that's the way you see them now.
Absolutely.
Yeah. The effort to become a state rep at that time was costly? Was it expensive?
Well, not compared to being a senator or an executive counselor, but it's really, what I did was I would reach out to my family and friends and neighbors, and all you have to do is buy signs and knock on a lot of doors and meet people.
You got to how long were you was in the House?
For 6 years.
6 years?
Yeah.
What did you accomplish while you were there?
Well, a couple things that are really paramount to me. One is to have passed civil unions and marriage equality. That was
Repeat
really...
that. What did you say?
Civil unions and marriage equality, gay marriage.
Yeah.
So to pass that was really important to me because I felt like it's not right to marginalize people. And so I was proud of that, but one of my most proud moments was when I passed the statewide emergency notification system. It's kind of like reverse 911. It calls out to you in event of a calamity, a fire, a flood.
Wait, 911 doesn't work anymore?
Well, this is reverse 911. So
why do we need that? Why do you think we need it?
If there is a flood in your area,
wouldn't 911 handle that?
Well, 911, you call 911. With this reverse notification, emergency notification, the state calls you, or the town calls you and says there's a flood on Main Street, don't go that way. So that's the bill that I worked to pass.
So you got that done as a state rep?
Yes.
Was that your foundation for trying to become a senator? Was that sort of a trigger?
No, it wasn't. It was something that my emergency manager asked for.
Oh.
And I'm a telecom consultant. I knew it could be done.
Yeah.
So I pushed to make it happen.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, I gave you some basic grounds for, say, you run for the Senate. Now, you ran for the Senate and you won.
Right.
And how many times did you run?
Oh, I ran 3 times.
3 times.
And I
And failed every time.
No, I won one time. Yeah, I
I
won.
mean, you ran
I ran 3 times. I won the first time.
and you didn't win the second,
No,
third time.
or the third, unfortunately.
And I think you're the kind of person who says, not the number of times that I get knocked down, it's the number of times I get up.
That's right.
That's just Muhammad Ali, dig. Now that you're not going to run for the Senate this time, and you think you're going to, you know you're running for the executive council,
Yes.
and that's a bigger job. That's a heavier weight to lift. That's a consultant to the governor about how to spend money
Right.
and how to select leaders in our
Yes.
organization called New Hampshire. And I wonder what inspired you and what do you think you would be the right person instead of the person who's there now to make this difference?
Well, thank you for that question. First of all, I'm excited about having 35 towns. I'm really excited about having all of Nashua to represent rather than just 3 wards because I grew up here. I know the cities, I know the towns, and I'm looking forward to meeting everyone. I feel that the executive counselor that we have, David Wheeler, does not really represent us. He does not stand for our values. Education is one of them. Public education is key. I wouldn't be where I was if it weren't for good schools like Broad Street School, like Nashua High, good public schools that give every child a chance. And we see an erosion with whom they've chosen for the education commissioner.
You're saying the education system today is worse than it was yesterday because of who was there?
It is worse than it, yes.
Okay.
We're going in a direction that does not serve our people.
Or is it status quo?
It is not status quo. No.
What would you do? It's not status quo? What is it if it's not status quo? It's what it was or what it has been for the last 6 years, 10 years?
Well, we're going into the wrong direction, I feel, because we're diverting a lot of public funds that should go to public schools. So we have people using their tax dollars to pay for private schools and home schools. And I do believe that you can educate your child in any way you choose. But traditionally, private schools are paid for by the parents, the family. Today, we're giving a lot of money to private schools.
You're
and
saying
home
my
schools.
tax money
Yeah.
doesn't only go to public schools. It goes to some person who may have tons of money in the bank or own tons of businesses, and we're paying for their child to go to charter school?
Something like that. There is a cap on the amount that you can make.
I know,
it's
but
very
I'm
high.
saying,
Yeah.
what I'm saying is those people who can afford
Yes.
to pay for their education
Right.
are taking money from those people who cannot afford to pay for their education.
That's correct.
And a large number of people in New Hampshire, in our Nashua, cannot afford because they don't have the jobs,
Yeah.
because they don't have the education, maybe. I'm not sure. But maybe you could tap into that.
Well, and the education piece is so critical because that is about opportunity for every child. It was an opportunity for me, a child of divorced parents. I mean, we didn't have it easy, but the fact that we had a great school to go to and learn, that's
Yeah,
why I'm
teachers
who I
that want to
am. We
pull
have
you along.
wonderful teachers, and thank you to all of our teachers. It is Teachers Appreciation
Name
Week.
one that you, one just, well, no,
I
that's
could
not a
name a
good
couple.
question.
Ms. McGurk, my 6th grade teacher.
Okay, well, what's her name?
Cam McGurk. My
Hello,
6th grade.
Mrs. McGirt. Thank you
Hi,
so much.
Cam. Yeah.
All right, we got it. We got the next executive counselor right here in our seat, and next to me, and I'm so proud. But I want to ask her, because we haven't gotten to that yet. What are the tools in your toolbox that you think you can satisfy the most urgent need from an executive counselor's point of view, which happens to be one, education. Mm-hmm. The other one we haven't mentioned is a rail from Boston to Manchester.
Yeah.
And I've been living here for 50 years. And there's 20 to 30,000 cars going into Boston every day to work from New Hampshire. Mm-hmm. If you go up to exit 8 where the bus station is, the parking lot is overcrowded. They're parking out in the street to ride the bus to Boston to work. Because parking has gone up, mm-hmm. gasoline has gone up, and all that kind of stuff. So what is it, Melanie, that you need to knock Mr. Wheeler out of that seat?
Well, besides having good judgment and having a pulse on what the people of New Hampshire need and the people of our district, including rail, because we do need rail, we need to get out there and talk to people and help to educate people on what the Executive Council does and how important their vote is.
How do you plan to do that?
Well, we've got literature written up. I am going to many different places to talk to people. As you heard before, I talk to everyone everywhere.
You're not bashful.
No, I'm not. The nail technician, the young man at the store, everyone that I can talk to about voting, I talk to. But my goal is also to reach out to more families, more parents that have children in school.
And they got 90,000 people right here in Nashua.
Yes.
What are some of your barriers that might prevent you from getting to your goal that you see right now?
Yeah, some of the barriers are that our state is very much gerrymandered, which means the lines are drawn to benefit one party over another. And traditionally, the Republicans have been in power, in office at the time of redistricting, so they are able
How long has that been?
to draw the line. Every 10 years is redistricting.
So it's been, and Wheeler has been, how long has he been in office?
Maybe, 20 years or so. I'm going to say 15, 20 years he's been
Is he
in office.
running again, do you know?
I don't know, but I'm assuming so.
Yeah.
But so the gerrymandering is one thing, and I will say, I always say that lines don't vote, people do. So that's why it's important that we talk to more people, share with them how important their vote is. John Lewis says your vote is the most precious and effective tool in a democratic society, and we must use it. So I've been talking to a lot of people. I will continue to talk. I talk in my sleep. Think about who I want to talk to.
That's
but
great.
It is so important, and we have so much power that we don't even realize.
We have power?
We do. We have power with our vote. That's how we change things in our country. Right?
Power is leverage and timing.
Mm-hmm.
How do we get to that point?
Well,
power is leverage and timing.
Leverage
so
is
how
the
do
work.
we get the leverage of the voting in your district? What is this district? District 2?
District 5.
District 5?
Yeah.
Which counties, which cities, where does it cover?
Well, without saying 35 of all of the towns, it's basically from Hudson to like Fitzwilliams and Troy at the border. It goes around to Merrimack, and we have from Milford to Dunbarton, and even Goshen. I'm looking forward to going to Goshen. So it's shaped like this, and they carve out the middle, and this is another example of gerrymandering, because they carve out the middle and they add on a few other places to make it harder to win. But we will win, and we will be victorious.
How do you stack up in terms of the army that you have versus the army that he could have or has had to win? How do like this is a fight. This is not something we want to just sing about and think about. This is a street fight. This is a street fight. And Wheeler has a machine gun on the street with his history and with the coagulation of the party that he belongs to. They're stuck in some place, I think, that they don't want to move. They don't want other people to share.
Yeah.
Now, what is it in your imagination, which I think is running wild, that you could do? He has a machine gun. What do you need to fight him with? A tank? Helicopters? You can't go.
Well,
let me just say this, Melanie. Executive counselor. You can't go with a switchblade knife. You can't go with a pocket knife or a razor. If he has a machine gun, you got to have a machine gun or better. Now, I won't tell you which one to suggest, but make sure. And I'm suggesting to you, if he's on the street with a machine gun, you got to get a tank and blow him away. And the tank is a huge number of people in Nashua who want something that they've never had before. They got to do something that they've never done before. And that's your motto.
Yes.
Yeah.
I hear you.
Yeah, okay.
And I like your tank. I was a little worried with where you were going there, but a tank of people, yes.
Yeah, a tank of people and ready to
an army of
die
people.
for their beliefs. You got to die for your beliefs. And you got to, as Martin Luther King says, if there's injustice anywhere, there's injustice everywhere.
Yeah.
And we in New Hampshire have a unique opportunity with a small number of people. I don't think they're small numbers. I just think the larger number has not been identified. Because I think the people of New Hampshire want to fight for freedom. They love freedom. And it has nothing to do with race, color, creed, or religion.
Yeah.
I think they are great human beings in New Hampshire, and we're lucky to be in their path. We're lucky to have you in their path. We're lucky in the churches. They can't. As Martin Luther King sat in the jail. He says, if you're silent, you're complicit with the people who are killing us. And that particular time, he was jailed, and the ministers in Birmingham, Alabama, didn't come out and say a thing. It's okay.
Yeah.
Bull Connor and George Wallace was raging in terms of segregation today, segregation tomorrow, segregation forever. And now, there's a big change in Birmingham.
Yeah. Picking up on what you said about being silent, and we can't be silent, the greatest lesson that I ever learned in my high school days was one from my freshman typing class, and that is how to type. Now is the time for all good men and women to come to the aid of their country. That is my motto.
Wow.
Yes. And,
that's fantastic. And
my ninth grade teacher would be proud of me.
Now let me ask you, we're going to close down now. What is it that you would like to leave with the audience? A nice little saying, something that they might remember from you. What would you like to say to them?
This is not mine alone, but a saying that has moved me just recently heard was that we have all got to think about what we want for our future and what we will do to achieve it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Nashua, you heard her coming from the lips of the person who's going to serve in the next governor, because he's not running again. So we got to get a governor. We got to get her on the executive council and say to them, what did you say? Would you say that again?
We all have to think about what we want for our future.
We have to think about what we want for our future.
And what we will do to achieve it.
And what we will do to achieve it.
Yeah.
And earlier, this young lady said to me, Harvey, if you want something that you've never wanted, you never had before, you got to do something that you've never done before. And I said, wait a minute, maybe I'd be arrested for that. Melanie, I am so proud of you, and thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
And, well, you know, we got 3 or 4 or 5 months.
Yeah.
And let's look down the road and look at the progress. And maybe once you get closer, we could come back and talk about how many have you. Well, you can't count them. You can't count them before the voting time, but you could get. Do you visit churches?
I do. I was at church, my church that I grew up in, a couple weeks ago. The first church in Nashua. That's where my parents used to go to church. But yeah, I'm going to visit a lot of churches.
Would you accompany me if someone invited me? I don't know why they would invite me.
I certainly would.
But would you come with me and speak to the? And
sure.
not, you know.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be about, you know, vote for me, but I think voting, period, is just a really important thing for people to understand. It's not really that hard, but you do have to.
You have to say it over and over again.
Yeah.
Because it's just not something that's appealing and attractive. Voting says, you know, what is it? Some people say, why? What does that mean?
Yeah.
And John Lewis said it so beautifully. It's the best tool in our democracy tool to keep democracy.
Yeah.
And today, ladies and gentlemen, we're fighting for freedom. I thank you so much, Nashua. Thank you so much, Melanie. And we'll see you next time.
Thank you.